This is Pitchside Prospects. Welcome to the second podcast.
The second edition.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the first one? Why don't we give a little recap about that first one?
Bro, I thought the first one went really well. We spoke for way too long.
But that's good, Like it let us open up and be able to ease into it instead of just feeling like robots,
I agree. I think even there were like 10 minutes of AI we cut out. There's random things. But without getting into that again, hopefully, we want to stay touching on football for this podcast. And I think the first podcast was amazing. It's almost completed. Its editing is almost thoroughly done, and we'll be posting it on YouTube, clips of it on social media and TikTok and Instagram. Look for it. Hopefully we'll upload the audios to the Apple Music and the Spotify.
By the time you're seeing this, though, it will already be out, so go try and check it out.
Yeah.
Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube.
And
check out our Instagram at
Train Zone Sports.
Train Zone Sports. What's your personal Instagram? If anyone wants to reach out to Zachary Jens, what is it?
I post a lot on my personal too. It's ZJ Kaizen. Kaizen is just, it's on my neck. It's a Japanese structural art for living. Just to be your best person. That's really in a nutshell what it is. But to touch on it, I thought our first podcast was amazing. And our second one, this one, is going to be even better.
Yeah, you think so?
I know so. The more you do something, the better it gets. That's how everything is in life. So
I agree with you with that, my friend. So let's start with the first thing we want to talk about today. Let's talk about the structure of this podcast and how we want it to look like also in the future, and not just being ourselves talking to you guys on the camera, but bringing on cool people and having discussions with them and talking with them about stuff that we may not be experts about, or we may be, and we want to get some extra insight.
I would love, even if we feel that we are experts, we're always trying to learn more as coaches.
Oh yeah,
it's never done, and I am excited about the kind of prospects we have on coming. Yeah, even I was like, the kind of prospects we have on coming on to our podcast, and I think I can release this. Matt Hall has agreed to come spend some time with us as soon as the first team for San Diego Loyal finishes their playoff run or whatever they have to do. He'll be with us, and that'll be exciting. We also want to bring in some players from the environment who are competing at different leagues and levels. So if that's something you feel like you want to do and you want to be a part of the podcast, we would love to have you. Reach out to us at Train Zone Sports or ZJ Kaizen.
Or at Coach JCKM. I forgot my own at there for a second.
Any of those three, you'll be able to reach us. And hopefully we can have a different group of prospect footballers come in and give their opinion. Because like Jose said in the last one, like there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of how you think and what you think and how you translate those thoughts to your team. Everybody's different based on the experiences that they have growing up in the game. And that's where that difference of opinion is important to listen to. That's where that humbleness of knowing you're never done learning comes in.
Just thought of a question. Now talking about our guests and future guests that we want to have. I want to have some big goals and big ideas for what we want to achieve with this podcast. I want to hear what are going to be your top podcast interviewers. If you could name one that's alive and one that's dead, that like if you wanted them on their podcast and they weren't going to say no.
Anyone?
Let me hear that. Anyone.
It'll
Any
be
two
Leo.
people. Messi.
See.
Yeah. Okay, all right. That's
Leo.
a good one.
I
didn't think you were going to talk with.
Leo.
I didn't think you were going to say Leo Messi, to be honest.
And the reason I say that is because even recently he's been spending time coaching his kids in Inter Miami, and I've been coaching for 10 years. So I'm in my head like, what happens if I keep going for another 20?
Oh, I want to coach against him so bad.
And
I want to beat him so bad and then say, "Hey, que mira, bobo, que mira, hey, tú dale ya, pa allá, pa allá." That's what I want to say.
But he's not that guy.
I'm going to make him be that guy.
No.
We saw him be that guy in the World Cup, but I want to see that World Cup Messi against my boys if I play against him.
So for me, I feel like I would love to be sitting next to him, and I wouldn't necessarily be picking his brain about the coaching aspects of it. Maybe I would, but I think just about the football life that he's lived and what he's learned from that, and what a lifelong goal / blessing that would be to sit next to Leo and have a conversation about football.
We gotta learn Spanish, man, because he doesn't know
I'm
any
working
English.
on it. I'm working on it. Like we talked about this morning. Well, what about you? Who would you have?
Alive? I mean, the easy answer would be like say Cristiano, since he just said that. But for me, it'd have to be probably Jose Mourinho, and like ask him about some like I want to hear the crazy like untold stories because I mean he's all got the note like the ones that we all know about, the one being in Munich or
The
Stamford
laundry
Bridge, the
brand.
laundry one, the
Yeah.
one where he's waiting for outside for the referee, and the meme, the one where he says goodbye to his Inter players. Like we all know these stories, but imagine the stuff, the crazy stuff.
It's not coming out.
No. That's
No.
what
Because
I
it's like
guess.
stuff that might ruin a
That have to
career.
be like a lost episode type thing, like where Jose Mourinho is dead, and then like coming out Jose Untold.
That's where the reputation is important. Those things don't come out because you got to make sure the reputation is in place.
Oh yeah.
I think the easy answer for me, obviously, would be Pep. Like, he's my idol. He's I guess you could say, the product of Johan Cruyff era, who's no longer with us. So
Yeah.
I then would like to take the brain of all of that compiled nature and just pick it.
But then let's go back to the original
That's the
question.
easy
How
answer
about
for me.
you can ask someone dead? If you could interview someone dead, who would that be?
Oh, it'd be Johan Cruyff. Hands down, instantaneously. When we were in Barcelona, I spent more of my time at the Camp Nou tour in the Johan room than I did on the grass or looking at the trophies. He is my all-time favorite person in football. Not just for his maverick nature and fashion and how he came into Spain and changed the way people thought about it. Then how he became a coach, and principal coaching was his forte. Like, this guy managed to take all of the chaos and complexity of football and teach it in principles. Do you know how hard that is? You have to spend a lifetime learning the game in depth, deciding who you are within that game, and then condensing it to a point where a 7-year-old could understand it. But then you give that to the professional, and he's still eating it alive. Like, it's the most amazing uh, information that you could get while you're playing.
And you know what's funny that you're talking about that?
I love that.
When we were talking about the difficulties between the different levels of the game, whereas you got the novice, the really young guys, and you got the intermediate, you could say teens that are trying to find their way in the game, and then you've got the pros. And you were talking about how at that pro level, the pressure of being able to keep everything fresh and new and interacting with your players is what's really difficult, because I mean, what I've learned in the past couple weeks is that as coaches we can all say the same things.
We will say
the
same thing.
Let's keep possession, let's move the ball, let's win our 50-50s, let's score in front of goal, take our chances, all the stuff that is basic in the game.
It's universal. It's universal to football.
It's the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about this with my team. I can't be like motivating you guys to do the bare minimum, or you guys can already have this
the
stuff.
Shape formations, the understanding of speaking to one another. This is all the same. It doesn't change from team to team. And if you can't do the bare minimums and the other team is, well, game done. That's it. And it's as simple as that. We went back in our last podcast. Your communication, which is a fundamental. The louder team is probably going to win the game. It's all of those fundamentals put together that lead to a great team. And it's those fundamentals that lead us to saying the same things. And then your personality and who you believe, what you believe in football, and the style that you teach, then starts to adjust the terminology, adjust the delivery, adjust what you want and where you want them. Those are the things that then define who you are as a coach. And I'll go back to Johan just for a moment. You'll catch me, imitation, form of flattery, sitting on the ball while I'm coaching, feeling like Johan, because trying to take all that chaos and send it out in a very fundamental way. And that is like, I think when we talk about it, he's my king. Those things lead to wins, and I'm tangenting again. So
this is the stuff that we got to be talking about, and like the more in depth that we get into each topic, the more knowledge that our viewer gets to understand in the deeper things. It isn't just about going to the surface level of everything, but sometimes when you really get in depth, then that's when something clicks after a while, and that is what made sense in that whole thing that you said.
And I feel like when it comes to Johan, the depth is immense. The way that he coached, the person that he was, the impact he had, and the teams he went to, and the successes he had while he was there. All of those things were in place, both as a player and a coach. And then he created minds like Pep. And minds like Pep go and they create minds like Arteta. And even the Spurs coach, what's his name?
Ange
That guy is
Postecoglou.
a disciple of Pep. And there's other coaches in other leagues around the world. Where does that all come from? It's Johan. It's the Dutch. It's total football. That's how generations of football led to
What's
this
the difference between
understanding of
Johan?
positional play.
What's the difference between Johan and Reines? Because Reines is the one that made Johan, or did he?
I don't think there is any
adapt?
difference. I think we'll go back to your or what you have just said. As you dig deeper into it and you go into the details of it,
Okay.
everything gets more understood, and we can look at that generationally, like him.
No, that definitely makes
Johan,
sense. Yeah.
To Pep, to Arteta. Hopefully, he can take his crown because I'm an Arsenal fan. But
calma,
this
okay?
is what I'm saying is
you
that
saw what happened this
detail
weekend,
gets better understood. I did see what happened this weekend. The game was
one of my Arsenal fans
unfortunate.
One of my Arsenal fans said that it was the worst that he has seen Arsenal play in a minute.
I disagree.
Really?
I think that Tottenham played a really good open game. I think that I'm going to start to lean towards the idea that Arteta is switching his players in and out and moving this formation a little much, but I'm going to justify that because he has Jorginho's and he has
Don't say that name. Don't say that name.
He has Declan Rice's. He has Thomas Partey's. He has Havertz. He has
no.
So he's got to find.
I am such a negative fan of Havertz because I don't see him do anything.
Well, I get that.
Didn't he just get the 007 yesterday?
What's this?
You don't know what the 007 is?
No.
It's a special 007, man. He's Agent Bond right in front of goal.
What? Oh.
0 goals, 0 assists.
No, but when you watch him play, he's breaking play up. He's creating chances for players. He's in the midfield doing the work.
Is that the bare minimum, though?
It's funny we're talking about him because do you know who made the critical mistake in the game that lost us the match? It was Jorginho. Do you know when Jorginho came on the game? At half.
The same time
that Havertz. Do you know they took him out? Rice. It wasn't Havertz. Had nothing to do with this. That was Arteta. He chose those things.
I'm not saying that Havertz lost the game. I'm just saying that I'm not a fan of what he does for your team.
I believe that he will find his place. The game against Spurs, I don't think it was one of our worst performances. I think Spurs came to play. At the same time, we did just about underperform. But that's because our expectations of our performances have gone through the roof.
No, it's football. That's football.
And we met it in the Champions League against PSV. So we didn't meet it here, but we didn't lose here. The only problem here is that City is, again, no losses, taking all their points.
Dare I say the City pool era again.
This is a problem because even when you're getting into the 90s, by the end of the season, you're not beating City unless you're perfect. And that's where this expectation for Arsenal comes from. We're no longer trying to beat our best selves. We did that already. We're trying to beat the best program that is seen in the Barclays Premier League since its creation.
For sure.
And now
this is a dynasty at this point now.
And Arteta's trying to keep up with that. I was upset with his choices in the game, but I also justify them by he has to figure this out now. Because when Partey's back, when Rice is in, and he has all of these choices to make in our midfield, he has to know when to do what. And we didn't
That is such a beautiful thing to have.
We didn't do when to do what this past weekend against the Spurs. We chose wrong. And it led to our demise, or not our demise, but what felt like a tie, that was a loss. Now, if you ask Spurs, they're like, that wasn't a handball. We should have won the game. Okay, go ahead and point towards the the official's decision. That's
Nah,
fine.
you know it's funny
but
today. You tell me like, oh, Madrid. Sorry for Madrid
I
today.
did.
And then like I'm watching the game, and I see it's 2-1.
Atleti.
It's 2-1, and then Bellingham gets a cross in the back post, and like Rudiger, he kind of plays the ball, but he's getting pulled down, and they call him for offside, and like he didn't even play the ball. It's that those little things in football, like you were talking about last week. It's moments in the game. The little moments, all of the moments piled up in 90 minutes is what's going to make or break the game, and how you react in the moment as well as reaction of the moment
and
is
reputation
everything.
is riding on that as well. The way that you pull Kai Havertz, you're pushing on Kai Havertz because his moments that he has had so far, he should have done better with. We can all say that. We can all look at him and say that because of your 007, those stats, they're factual. If you watch the in between, the game is 90 minutes. So much more happens than just that moment. We just
and that must be the reason why Arteta keeps playing him,
because it's the in between, and that's what I'm watching, and that's what I appreciate. He's cutting passes out. He's in the area where we need him to press. He's always working his butt off. He's not stopping because he knows he's already behind the curve on the Arsenal fans' love. And the only thing you can do when things aren't going well is work hard. Do your role perfect. And then eventually those moments start to turn to your favor if you keep doing that. Because you'll keep getting picked on. You'll keep having the opportunity to be in that moment to finish. There was that howler he missed. Completely missed the ball.
Which one of all of them?
The howler. He was in the 6 and missed the ball. You don't think I was freaking out in that moment? Of course. But I support the man because I watched the in-between. And I believe that this guy is good for our midfield and our team. The same for Jorginho. He borderline tied us the game this weekend. Everybody at Arsenal, including myself, backs him.
Jorginho is a UEFA Men's Player of the Year. You got to remember that.
He was the best center mid at Chelsea for years.
You got to remember that.
When we picked him from Chelsea, there were interviews at Chelsea of the players asking, who's your best player in the club? And one of them said Jorginho, and somebody taps on the shoulder like, bro, we sold him yesterday. You can't pick him. He's like, what?
He's gone.
It's like, on it's like, yeah, we stole their best center mid. Yeah, and we'll take that. And now we have Rice, Partey, Havertz, and more. He's not even like a first pick on us. So we're going up. I'm happy about it. There's a lot of things you could talk about within that. But
why don't we transition from that? And you brought up a good point about Arsenal and their depth in midfield. And I know we talked about this last week with us, or with players trying to find more minutes in the game and playing different positions, but how do you enjoy having depth as a coach?
It's one of the most important things to the success of the season.
And just touching back to Arsenal, I think that's why they're getting like way even better now, because they have those depth to be able to swap pieces.
Yeah, and this time around, the guy just one moment wasn't ready for the opportunity. And to be honest, depth is what makes a season, because the injuries, because the consistency of level of play, because the differences in formations when it comes to tactics,
the form of a player, how whatever excess happens in their life. Remember, we won't say his name, but remember one time last year when a player had to step off the game and was on the phone with someone.
Yes.
And like you don't expect any of these type of things to happen in the game, and it's not planned out. Like, oh yeah, I'm writing down in my journal. I'm writing down my journal. Oh yeah, hey, this player's gonna happen. This I don't have this stuff written down.
No, you can't. You can't.
No, of course not.
And when it happens, you now have to adjust to manage the situation. It's frustrating, but your decisions can't be frustrated because you have to make a logical choice on what's best for that moment and how to handle that player.
Now, this is
Emotion doesn't belong in that.
This is a good question. Now, in hindsight,
it might lead you though to what you need to say. It doesn't have a place in it though. After that,
in hindsight. So remember, you and I were at that game. I was your assistant last year.
Yes, sir.
What would you have done if you were a solo coach and this player goes on his own, just like leaves all his stuff, takes his phone, and just during the game, you as a coach alone, what would you have done?
Well, since I'm alone, and we talked about this last season, one of my greatest progressions as a coach still is staying focused on the game at hand and not coaching the bench and turning around and working on those one-on-one moments as much, which I love to do because I'm improving the one brain, the person, this one. But there's a whole game going on that needs my attention. So in that situation, ideally, I turn my attention off of that situation completely and focus at the game at hand. And when he returns, if he starts to like interact and engage with the game again
or in a positive way,
in
or
a
in
positive
general,
way or in general, I'm saying in general,
like coming back and being
my
ready to play.
first comment is going to be, what was that about? And if he doesn't have a good reason for what that was about, even if his attitude was great, he's going to have to take a punishment for that.
Really?
Not that it's a hard punishment. What if it was, oh, coach, my girlfriend called me. Oh, the game is on. There's 18 guys that need you right now. And I don't feel that that one could be so important from a 16-year-old. It's not your wife. You don't have kids. It can't be a detrimental situation. And clearly your priorities are set wrong. And I don't know if I need somebody like that in my group. So would I enter them back into the game or use them? Yes. But I would have to first question, what was that about? And if I felt it wasn't worthy of separating themselves from the game and the objective at hand,
because then you're like letting down your teammates.
the discipline at that point then becomes, well, sit your butt on the bench, and when I need you, I might even not use you because there I'm going to give the opportunity to somebody else who has been locked in. Ooh. Even if he's 2 steps behind you in his development, this is my opportunity now to show him this is what's right to do in a team setting. You get this opportunity because he did what you shouldn't do. And you've been behind him. Well, guess what? Today, you're in front of him. And if you do well with this opportunity, that's going to continue until he proves otherwise. So that's how I handle that. And now the player then gets put in the roster as far as opportunities go and picks and first team and all that. You dig your own grave in that situation.
So, like, as a player, do you think he is not only for that game, for like the rest of the season, is he at a not a disadvantage, but did he show his true colors to you? And would you, as a coach, not let that go after one weekend?
There's no always, there's no forevers. And I say that because he could come back the next week and be completely locked in, dialed in, have the best week of training, and get his opportunities back. Also,
a new week is a fresh slate.
For the most part, yeah. Until you show that that's a repeated behavior or action, it's a new slate. Yes, of course. Because if you do it again, now I'm starting to get a picture of who you are. If you don't do it again, maybe it was just a moment, a situation that happened occasionally. What if the phone call was important and it was his mother telling him his brother was hospitalized in this game and he's got a broken arm and now he has to go home with a teammate? You can't punish somebody for that.
No, of course not. But
that's
a great question.
What was this about? Before I have to make a decision about how you place in your opportunities in the team, I have to know what happened.
100%.
And the communication of us doing that too builds our team camaraderie. Like, he understands that I want to know what's going on in his life so I can better him on the field too. And if it's something that I disagree upon, I have a space where I can let him know. For the sake of the team, not for myself or what I believe, for the sake of the team, how he should behave in those situations. And what the ramifications are as well of behaving that way in front of the team negatively. Not just ramifications, the outcome, the feeling that it gives to the others. What does that say, your actions? And I don't think kids think about that as often as they should, nor are they maybe at a place in their life where it's natural.
A kid is born to be focused on themselves and like their own thing.
So it's our job to open up the mind a little bit to see the other perspectives in that situation so they can get a grasp of what it means to be a team.
What if we talk about another side of people that are interrupting events in the game, and that would be parents? That's a big
Sensitive topic.
Oof.
I feel we wanted to talk about this, and there's a lot to talk about parents and all the rules when it comes to being a part of a team. Because when you sign your son or daughter up for a team, if they get accepted, they're part of that group, but so are you, and so are we as the coaches. So that whole thing is the team. And we all have a role and a place and jobs to fulfill within
the team.
That role.
That's what makes the team good.
Team. That's right. And we wanted to touch on one of the things, and I had about the parents is how loud they could be on the sidelines, which I'm not saying is a bad thing.
Depends the rhetoric, though.
It depends on the rhetoric. It depends on what is being said, how it's being said, why it's being said, when it's being said. And I don't know if parents consider enough how impactful their words are to the field, because when you consider it, their child hears me for 3 to 5 hours a week, my voice, my intentions, my instructions, my goals. The other 100+ hours of the week, they're getting dictated and told and led by their parents. That voice is easily 10 times stronger than mine when it comes to an inertia or initial reaction to the player. My belief as a coach is to never give instruction to a player prior to an action so that they can critically decide on the decision of the situation and learn from that decision, whether it was good or bad. If it was unsuccessful, why? And what other opportunities are there? If it was successful, why? And how do I replicate this situation?
With that in mind, I want to give you a little question. What do you feel about, because you would use this phrase a lot, especially for wingers whenever they got into the attacking third, you would say, get us something.
Anything. I played winger my whole life. You cannot lose possession of the ball. And your job, like when you're playing American football, is just to take yards. That's everything. Because if you can take yards, your whole team block moves those yards.
So when you give I guess the question is, when you give an open question instead of saying cross it or dribble, take him on, when you leave it open for get us something, is that where the difference between
100%.
How it is received?
100%. Imagine the winger picks up the ball, and thank you for focusing that thought. The winger picks up the ball, and I say, get us something as the ball's coming to his feet. His instruction is, do what you want with it, but get something. In that same moment, the parent sideline is screaming, go forward,
shoot,
dribble,
shoot,
cross. These are all commands. Whether you understand the command function or not, commands apply pressure and dictate critical thought. So when we give commands, we take the power away from the player to critically think, decide, learn from the decision. That is a major malfunction of the parents' rhetoric. And I'm not saying it's because they all don't understand the power of their words. I'm just trying to dictate or highlight that shouldn't be there. Because as a coach coaching for 10 years, I strive, and it's hard to not command the players to do what's best. It's so hard because if I sat there and played FIFA with my team the whole game, we would win more games because I'm telling them the whole time what to do.
And what what football is?
I'm getting worked up about it because so many people play football that way.
It's decisions, man. Decisions make or break the game.
And show the player understanding.
And if you give them the right decisions, and even if they get the execution maybe not the best, they'll get it again.
I try to explain it like this. The practice is the study, the school. The practice is where we go to learn, and that's where I'm teaching and giving them the options and decisions that could be made in those situations. The game is the test. Would you as a parent go to your child's school on test day, midterm day, whatever it is, And as they're taking the test, shout out commands or answers to the test? Never. In a million years, nobody would do that. And we all see that as like, well, the child needs to be able to fail or succeed by his own brain to see where he's at and how he needs to improve. It's the same when we come back to the field and we're looking at their decisions that they make in each situation. So when we talk about parents, I love my parents. I love their relationship with the team. I am a coach, though, that keeps them a bit at arm's length and gives them the script of what they can and cannot say. And I do this for the sake of the players in the game. We talked about all that chaos in the game and how to corral all that chaos into instruction that's fundamentally sound. Well, in order to do that, they have to block out everything else they're hearing from the sideline.
Oh, yeah.
Because we haven't even talked about the other side of the sideline, which is screaming all the negative stuff at them, because those are the opponent's parents. Like, hey, he pushed my son, and hey, that ball was out, and all of those things that you have no control over. None. You have to accept that they're there. And that's good, because when you get to a pro, it's amplified 20,000 times.
Yeah.
So for parents, for coaches, for players' sake.
How is it at the college level? Sorry to cut you off, but how is that?
Depends on the college you go to. My college was Central California's CSU Stanislaus. I love that place. I love the place. I love the school. It was in the middle of nowhere. We had no football team, no American football. And because of that, the two school.
So you were the big jocks on this.
Because
on
of that,
the
two sports on campus were basketball and soccer. This was like, and not only this, our teams at the time were extremely good. So for my college matches, I want to say we averaged 2,000 to 5,000 fans.
So to get rowdy in there.
It would get big. And we had clubs from the local area bring all their players.
Ooh, because that was the only thing they could do, huh?
Yeah, it was the only thing in that city or area that was entertainment. It was Cowtown. For sure, that was the reason. And so they'd come in and watching the stadium's full. You're signing stuff after, makes you feel professional, but it's only 2,000 to 5,000 people. That's probably a good average. I would say for colleges in D1, it could be higher. For colleges D2 and NAIA, it could be lower.
How do the fans get? The fans get bad?
No, I don't think so. I think that you go to one of the D1 schools and some of the top D2 schools, like Chico State, although I don't know how the record's been lately, they're rowdy, bro.
Yeah.
Those fans are rowdy. At least when I played, that was one of those things. When I went to Chico, I dreaded, because they were calling me Justin Bieber on the field. Justin Bieber, and it's because
I was gonna ask you what was the worst thing that you heard?
That I had bleached my hair. I'm at Chico. It's a game where we're losing 2-1. I had a moment where they picked the ball off my pocket, and the entire fan section, Justin Bieber, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're talking about me right now.
Well, your balls shrivel up.
I was just pissed, bro, and their comments affected me in the game. Really? We ended up tying it 2-2, but for at least 15 minutes, I was rattled.
Yeah.
I was rattled because it's so loud and all the attention's put on you. And so next 2 or 3 moments you get with the ball, super impactful.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what is the best way that a player can bounce back from any situation, whether that be his parent getting mad at him, whether that be a missed opportunity, whether that be a missed clearance, anything in the game that they can bounce back from. What is your experience?
2 things. Confidence comes from the acceptance of failure. Now, that's a huge statement, right? Confidence comes from the acceptance of failure. I'm saying you're going to make mistakes. Don't try to be perfect. Things get so much harder when you feel that way and think that way. You have to be confident enough to make mistakes so you're often able to try again. You have that short-term memory loss. You're fully confident knowing that you're this good even though you're making these mistakes. That's the number 1. The number 2, and this one goes back to the communications of the parents and all of this. There's one voice, maybe 2, that matter amongst all the chaos. It's your coach's voice and his opinion of how you're doing and what you're doing. That's your most important. If you're making mistakes, the fans are on you and you turn to your coach and he's giving you instruction, he's like, you're good, you're good.
You're good.
There's
You are good.
nothing else that should shake you. And then the second voice that I'm speaking of is your collective team on the field and sideline,
Your boys,
and how
your
they're
brothers,
supporting you
your
and how
brothers.
they're building you. Because there is that, hey, you're good, bro. You're good. Next one, I'll be there. But there's also that voice can turn a bit on you if too many mistakes are getting made.
Oof.
And in college, that's a real thing. If too many mistakes are getting made, that second voice will turn on you. The coach's voice will see that, and decisions will have to be made about replacing your opportunity in the space. But those are the two most important. So block everything else out as you're trying to.
And I liked how you said the first and the
Focus your
second.
mind.
The first and the second moment after that one is key, because if you let that get to you, then you're just gonna ride that wave.
You'll fail those moments.
You ride that
Because
wave.
you're letting the outside opinions affect your confidence. And like I said, confidence is the acknowledgement that you're going to fail and that you can try again. And when you accept this, you play with a freedom that is stronger than anything else I could give a person. And we had a player last season in Spain who came up to me outside and was asking all about this. Coach, how do I be confident? How to be confident? And the decision or the conversation with his mother sitting right next to me was, dude, you feel like you need to be perfect. And so you're even afraid to try to fail. And can I tell you that all of your players need to know that you as a coach are accepting of their failures, as long as they can change their relationship with failure and see it as the greatest teacher in a learning moment. And you have to do the work as the coach in the player's mindset to get them to understand that. When you could do that, the next day he came back out on the field and looked like a fire cannon, because he wasn't afraid to take on his opponents. He wasn't afraid to serve crosses in early. He wasn't afraid to take shots from 25 out. He just tried. And so I feel like when you're talking about those things, you have to make sure that the player understands those two things. He can block out the rest of the fans coming at him. He can focus in on the voices that matter. He can understand that failure is his best teacher, and he's willing to try and succeed again. Through those tries, you teach, and you accept those failures as, this is what happened, this is how it could be better. And we go back to the parents, right? I would say that there is a proper way to line teens and parents up for everything that we're talking about. I have a personal belief that teams, coaches, and players should be on one side, so that this level of communication can be more direct. They can be more heard. The player can then say, everything I'm hearing from this side is unimportant in this moment, if these are the parents, and everything I'm hearing from this side is very important. And for me, that helps them decide on what to listen to and how to decide. In Southern California football, in the lower regional leagues.
Ooh, do you want to get into this?
I'm just saying.
I know we wanted to make this its own podcast.
Yeah,
remember that?
I don't know why, but they've decided to put teams and parents on opposite sides. So I sit with my parents and my team. And there's no issue with my parents at the youth football hearing how I'm going to talk to the players and none of that. The issue comes when the chaos starts and all the voices start, and my voice gets blurred and meshed into all of the chaos, along with the parents' voices who are 10 times stronger than mine.
Because there's 10 times more of them?
Because they spend 10 times more time with their parent than me.
Oh, that too.
And so now I'm fighting against my own team to communicate with my team. This is why I believe both teams are here. Not only that, there's a feeling when you walk up to a nice tournament and you're pulling over to your side and you see the sign that says players and coaches only. It's that professionalism feeling of, now I've entered the environment that this is the team setting and nothing else exists outside of this. That helps them focus.
You know, it's funny when you're talking about that, because
and I know it's sensitive
weekend,
topic. I try not to rip into parents. I try not to, but I feel from 10 years of coaching that some education is necessary upon why we feel this way and why we're set up a certain way and why we ask them to say certain things. no commands, all support. That's impactful to the game's intensity, quality, entertainment, all of those things.
It's funny that you talk about the teams being on separate sidelines, because this weekend, my second game for my older team, we were actually on the same sideline. And I was really surprised when I saw that. I was like, all right, this is what I like to have. And I'm talking with the coach, and as a coach, you kind of try and go like talk with the referee to get decisions, and then I hear the coach saying, "Oh, that was off on them," and I'm talking to him like, "Oh, come on, coach, you saw that go out." He's like, "Oh, oh, coach, I didn't see it," and I'm like, "Then why are you saying that, man? Why are you lying?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're right." But
Banter.
That's what everyone does.
Banter.
Banter
could get out of hand sometimes, but
oof. But
that's on you.
What was my favorite part this weekend when I'm doing my halftime talk, and like, dude, the canopies were like right next to each other, like 10 feet away, so like no space at all.
That's too much.
No, it was a little too close, and you know
100%.
me, I like to be a little, powerful with my words.
Of course.
The other team stopped talking, and I'm just talking out loud, and then I start going, hey, we're gonna start doing this, and this, and like right in their face, and then you can just hear them laughing. I'm telling my boys, you know what I really enjoy about my teams? That no matter if I tell the other team how we're gonna play, I still have confidence that we can beat them.
That's right.
Because we are so good at what we do, and we know how we're going to do it, that we're going to beat them even if they know what we're going to do.
And that's how it should be. That's how a team should be organized. That's how you should have them locked and loaded to think. And all of those things when it comes to then when the kickoff starts and how people are communicating in the space lead to your success or failures.
You know where I lost,
all of the people.
You know why I lost, though? Wow, this is crazy talking about this, but in the warm-up, the other team is warming up without their coach. And one of my players goes, oh, dude, we're going to win. Their coach isn't even here. When I saw that, I was like, beep.
Yeah, unacceptable. Underestimating the opponent.
Not even that. It's the fact that, and this is something I need to work on, it's the fact that my team can't even warm up without me. They think that they need me to be there. They think they need me to be there to prepare them for their game.
How great was our team actually at that last season?
Oh, because we had leaders.
And how good were they at making sure that they prepared for their matches on their own if necessary? Because I had 4 teams in field ops and running around like a chicken with my head cut off. And the level of this football was high. But the team was massive and it had leaders. So this should and had to take place. And if they couldn't, it showed that when the game was at its hardest, we were going to buckle. Simple as that. If we couldn't organize a warm-up and handle it on our own accord, how are we going to play 90 and handle it on our own accord? Because sometimes the game goes quiet and you guys have to take control.
That's what I've been trying to do more. I've been trying to just sit back.
That's how you
should stop.
That's what you want.
And I've been starting to use the word that you used. Who's going to start the conversation? Because I'm not going to start anymore. It's your guys' game.
Start leaning on you to do it every time if you continually start the conversation. And let me get this through. Football is a conversation with your parents, with your players to players, with you and your other assistant coaches, with you and the opponents, with you and the ref. Football is a conversation. That's why I believe the voice is one of the most powerful tools. How you use it, when you use it, where you use it, to whom you use it. Those are so impactful, right? And I feel like that's a good touch on the parents in that area, good touch on the players in that area, good touch on the coaches in that area. Like, know your role, know what you're there to do, and do it at your best and be conscious of it from your words to your actions, because everything impacts the 90 minutes. Everything.
And it's not even knowing about your own role. You should know about your teammates' roles too, because that is where we get the best understanding of who, what, where, when, why. Why are we doing this? Because this, and this. Then that makes sense.
Huh?
But if we're just looking at ourselves in a group team sport, we're not getting anywhere.
No.
We're not going to get anywhere.
No, not at all. It takes all 11 plus the 11 on the bench in order to create success. And that's one of my favorite parts about football. One of them is it takes all of the people to be firing on all cylinders in the same direction
Now that we're
for it
talking
to
about
be a
this,
success.
how about we go to our Q&A and we can start with the first question.
It's perfect.
Starting with the first question at Nicolas G. Saliba.
We love you, young man.
Question is, what do you love most about the beautiful game?
I first read this question and gosh, my brain started going like, because there's so many things that I love about the beautiful game.
Oh, yeah.
But after giving it some thought, I'm like a true lover of human nature and watching human nature interact with each other. And one of the most beautiful parts of the game to me is how football gives a place for, if not everyone, most of the people that enter it. And then once you find your place in that team, how the people interactions lead to the growth of not only the individuals, but the collective as a whole. I think that when you stop and you look around, like Ferris Bueller said, there's so much going on. When you stop and you take a moment to actually look, there's so much beauty within the human interactions, the positive human interactions that sports have on humans, but also relationships that have on humans, that are building and growing these people into the being that they're going to be for their lives. I would be behind bars somewhere if I didn't have football, because of all the people that it brought into my life and led me in a positive direction, changed the person that I was going to be for the better. Now in a coaching situation, seeing those relationships from above and watching them take place and watching this growth from humans, not just as players, but as people. After 10 years of being in the game, there is nothing more beautiful to me than the relationships that are built and how those people grow from that environment and those relationships in football. Now, there's so many things that you could say, oh, well, what do I love about the beautiful game the most? But for me, it's a simple answer. I love all of the places and people that it allows me to come into contact with, interact with, teach and learn from, and grow with. That, to me, there's nothing more beautiful in the game. But along all those journeys, it's been different. When I first started coaching, when I was in your seat in my first few years, and I won my first big tournament, like Surf Cup, when Surf Cup was big, I remember the feeling when the boys won the trophy, the moment the final whistle blew of the final. And I arguably, this is equally as beautiful to me in football, is when the team realizes that they've won, when the parents realize that they've won, and everybody's emotion skyrockets to this joyous output.
Bro, it's ecstasy, man.
Is
It's
the
ecstasy.
word for it. But in that moment, I've always been in disbelief. I've never been in a state of joy and overwhelming. What happens to me is I'm in disbelief. I'm stagnant, and everything, all the emotion that's being released from everybody else, I'm absorbing. I'm absorbing it because I have a feeling that without all of the things that I said and did, and that they listened to and did, and that all the parents spoke and did, all of these things led to this success. And all of the people a part of that were the reason we're now here. And where you're still and everybody else is ecstatic, you can actually absorb that moment of beauty. You say, wow, we did it. Wow, look what feeling you gave to all of these people and led these people to. And wow, this is a core memory, not for me, but for all of them. when you can take that, put it in your pocket, and feel it. That moment was one of the most beautiful things about the beautiful game to me, because it's the culmination of all your hard work.
So you're saying the
And
most
their
beautiful
hard
thing?
work.
You're saying the most beautiful thing in the game is winning?
No, I think
Or
first and
winning it all?
foremost, it's the relationships that you build and the growth of the humans that you grow with. I think secondly, it's winning it all, because
Winning is the
um,
taste that it gives you in your mouth is just like it. There's nothing like it.
it's for me again. It's the accumulation of all of the thousands of moments that led to it, and everybody finding their place in the team that led to it.
If I
And
had to give my most favorite thing about the game, I think it'd have to be the fact that it is so never ending, and like I can do this for the rest of my life and probably still not be the best ever.
that's a great answer.
That for me is the most important and beautiful thing, because that means that I am on a lifelong journey that it may never be enough.
No,
And I was
that's
it's a funny thing
that's a great answer.
that I say this, because I was talking to a friend of mine, and she asked me like, "Oh, like what would be success in your life?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know, because like I'm a type of person that no matter where I am in my life, there really is never enough. I mean, there is enough in the sense of like, hey, there's the tallest mountain in the world. Hey, there's there's the best trophy in all of soccer. But to get to those things, that is like the ultimate goal, and those are things that are so high up in the mountain, high up in the sky of altitude, that even if I got there, I'd just be like, wow.
But what you're
No
saying is,
way.
even when you got there, once you got down, you reset your brain. You might just go and attack the second tallest mountain in the world, because you're never done finding that next thing. There's a moment to chase, there's a moment to acculate, grab it, there's a moment to move on and set your sights on the next. And when you're in football, that's ever growing. When you're in life, if you feel that way, you're ambitious, you will see yourself continuously hit a plateau and look to see how can you jump that. That is the ambitious spirit of human nature, coaching, who you are,
Some people.
and who you are, the
Some
ambitious
people.
spirit. Yeah, it's not a trait that everybody has. That's for sure.
Oh.
That's
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
oh, yeah.
And we are looking for more people that have that ambitious trait, because we want to add them to the team. So it's like, keep in mind, if you're ambitious and you love football, hit us up. I'm sure we can find a place for you, whether it's a coaching role
The
or as
roles.
part of.
No, we're gonna find a role.
We can easily do this, and we want to improve the size of our team. Love people like that.
Moving on to the next question from at Mateo_Espinos.
Mateo!
Macho.
Zeke,
And Z,
love
even
Mateo
Z,
too,
Z
bro.
says hi to Theo. Look at that, look at that. He asks, what's the best way to improve individually?
So, a lot like the juggling question, right?
Yeah, that goes back to the
A lot
to
like
that.
the juggling question, because what or how do you improve individually? There's two avenues in my mind. You highlight your weakest points in your game, and you spend endless amounts of time improving that point. I'll say it like this. When I got to college, clearly, full speed, left footed crosses were my weak point. I played on the left wing, and I could cross at a stop. I could cross at half speed. I could cross under pressure, as long as we weren't moving at full speed. But when we were moving at full speed, under pressure, crossing with my left foot for a whip or a down hard ball, I could not do that 100% of the time. So the first thing I did college summer was go to the field, grab a ball of bags, and start gunning down the line and saying it has to be there, it has to be here, it has to be there, it has to be here. Because that situation was showing itself in the game, and I was failing to meet that moment.
A very easy answer to that, and the thing that I love to do as a one-on-one trainer, position-specific work. If you knew that you're going to be in this place in the game and you can't do that action, work on that action so that you can get it right.
So we'll go to repetition. Repetition is king. in order to improve individually, you, like I was saying, there's two avenues. Highlight your weakest point and increase the amount of repetition within that point, but be detailed. Like I just said, it wasn't that I was at half speed under pressure crossing I was having trouble. It wasn't when I was stopped having trouble. It wasn't when I had beaten my man and got past him and attacked the goal line I was in trouble. It was when I was on a straight shot, horizontal or vertically with the sideline, under pressure, and still had to find a way at full speed to get that thing in. The detail of that meant that I had to train that specific thing at that speed to get the ball
that intensity.
Yeah,
that's what it's about, the intensity.
And as I started focusing on that, it wasn't just me going out alone anymore. After I started getting better at the kick, then I brought a teammate out, said, hey, take this thing from me. Ooh, caught myself. Take this thing from me.
Yeah, baby.
Right? And it's like, as you develop in your weaknesses, you will see your well-rounded game come to life. Now, let's go to the other side. What are you really good at? Because we talked about this recently. Having a trait that you bring to the team is usually and often the reason that you get picked to start or get more minutes. Having that trait, having that kind of like specialization gets you more minutes. So what are you really good at? You really good at shooting from 20? Get better at it. What are you really good at? Servicing and getting the number of crosses into the box? Serve more crosses. What are you really good at? Defending and pinging the long ball for counterplay? Do that often and with better detail. Focus on your strength and make it your trait. Make it the thing that every single coach and player on that field feels you are threatening.
There are some people that make their careers just by knowing one thing, how to do it to the best of their ability.
Because then they'll have to adjust to your trait, and we can exploit them with another space or trait. They start focusing on you way more, which helps us attack them as a whole. So there's two ways, Mathael, to improve individually. In my opinion, you start with your weaknesses. You increase your amount of repetition and detail with those weaknesses, and then you apply pressure in that situation. And as you get better at that moment, you will improve in-game. Then you go to your best qualities, and you have to highlight, I think I'm really good at, and you see in game film, I'm scoring these or I'm getting that ball in it. And then you think, how can I make that moment better? That's what I feel you should be focusing on. Focus on your weaknesses, improve your repetition, focus on your strengths, make it your trait.
Perfect. Now let's go to the final question.
Thank you, Mathael.
Thank you for the question, Mathael. We love the questions. If you want more questions, you already know, at Trains on Sports, at ZJ Kaizen, at Coach JCKM. Maybe you'll get the chance to be featured on our podcast. Last question from at Jack_Sack. Question is, which color grip socks do you recommend for a right back? And for me, I gotta say, if I'm gonna have a right back, he's gotta be like defensively sound. You know, he's gotta be able to stop the winger. I think
there's a color associated with
black.
Oh, okay. There's a color associated.
Or red.
Red, I was thinking. If there's a color
red
for that,
blood.
It's red.
Blood.
But here's my answer for you, Jack, is if you're playing in youth leagues in America, that lately refs have started to see a lot of cut socks. We all see cut socks. Players are using grip socks and other socks underneath their club colors for better traction, for better feeling, for comfortability, whatever that is for you. My answer to this is the color should match the socks that your club uses. That is the best way to avoid any confrontation when it comes to the refs checking the players in that are legally equipped for the match.
And where could they get any color socks?
You can get grip socks, any color, personalized with your number, with your name, or with our logo and those things at trainzonesports.com. We have 12 different colors. They're all matching the most used colors in football. And you can order these. You can cut your sock. You can make sure the two colors match. And right where your grip sock still shows, between the cut sock and your boot, we could put your number and your name there.
We'll add a little graphic right here. We'll do that this week.
Yeah.
Right
here. And you can see what it is that we're talking about. But in my opinion, Jack, to avoid any confrontation with officials, you should match the color of your grip sock with the team club sock color.
Simple answer.
If you do that, nobody will ever bat an eye on you cutting your socks. Not even the club you work with. Because at Barcelona, we didn't like it. We didn't want it. Players still did it. And when the colors showed that were different, it was an issue, because if that color that showed on your grip sock was white and we were in the Barca red and blue and
That's
the
a problem.
opponents wore white, you would not get to start.
Not even that. You're wearing white. You're wearing white at Real Madrid or at Barcelona.
That's
even worse.
Yeah, Javi would be the guy that'd be like, unacceptable.
Blanco.
Dare you? Yeah, no, and
I think,
and rightfully so, because this is who we are. This is the rules of the game, and that's how we should behave.
Professionalism.
That's right.
And I think on that note, it's a great way to end the second edition of the Pitchside Prospects, the Youth Football Chronicles. I'm your host, JC, here with the man,
Zachary Jens. We are very glad to have you. We wanted to do a starting 11, but it looks like we'll start on the starting 11, our personal top starting 11.
All time
starting 11s at the beginning of next podcast.
Get ready for that. Let's see what controversial picks you're going to choose.
I'm sure between the two of us, it'll be very different. But this is Pitchside Prospects. We love to have you guys. Happy to have you guys here and listen to what we think. If you are a player that wants to be a part of this and speak about what you think and join the Pitch Prospects on an episode, reach out to us. And we look forward to bringing more podcasts to you soon.
Thank you, guys.